So this big, burly American guy just popped up in the middle of nowhere in Mexico City. This is an area where no tourist ever needs to go. He was desperate, he was confused, and he did not speak any Spanish. I knew something immediately was wrong. Today I'll share the top 6 scams in Mexico City, plus a key bonus for your safety. At the end of this video, I'm going to finish up that story from the beginning, and it illustrates another crucial point for your safety here, so please make sure you stick around. Hey, it's Sarah. I lived in Mexico for 10 years, and I am your guide to authentic experience in Mexico. Make sure you grab my Explore Mexico City cheat sheet down below. The first common scam in Mexico City is what I'm going to call Xochimilco scams. Xochimilco is one of the most popular destinations for people visiting Mexico City. It's known as the Venice of Mexico City. It has these cool trajineras, which are kind of like gondolas with guys that take their poles and move around with you, and you can eat and you can listen to music, and it's super cool. But because of the large tourist pull, it's kind of become like the mafia. Please do not try to go to Xochimilco on your own. You absolutely need a local guide to take you there, unless you want to end up spending 5 to 10 times the prices that you should on everything. Story time. One time, I was bringing some friends to Xochimilco, and I even had a Mexican friend in the car who didn't seem to know anything about Xochimilco, but I digress. We were going to Xochimilco in a taxi, and this really official looking guy on a motorcycle started like whipping around the taxi, screaming at us in the window that we couldn't go to the dock that we wanted to go to because it was closed. And he looked official. I mean, he had a vest on. It was printed on the back with like governmental words from Mexico City. It seemed like he was trying to help us. And honestly, in the moment, it made me really nervous, and I didn't know what to believe. The taxi driver was honest, and he told us to ignore the guy, but honestly, I didn't know who to believe. I didn't understand it. I've heard of others that have suffered similar things. However, the taxi driver was in on the scam and actually drove them to the side of the road with a bunch of the motorcyclists that are scammers, and insist that they take them to this special dock, the only one that's open, supposedly. Well, this is a complete scam. They end up charging you between 5 and 10 times the price of what they should for you to rent one of the trajineras to go enjoy your time there in Xochimilco. The trajineras should cost about 500 or 600 pesos as of the recording of this video per hour. And that is for the whole thing, not per person. That's an officially mandated price by the government. This is not the only scam at Xochimilco. They'll also try to scam you when it comes to the drinks or anything else that you were buying. If you do buy something, you should definitely verify the price per drink before you purchase. And honestly, I just recommend that you go with a local guide. The second common scam in Mexico City is the Zócalo Terraza scam. Now, I've already mentioned this in a previous video, but it's something I want you to be aware of because the Centro Histórico there in Zócalo is one of the most popular tourist destinations in the city. For good reason. It's really, really cool. And it's also a place that I cover a lot here on my channel. But you should be wary of any guys outside screaming for you to come to their restaurant there in Zócalo, or probably really anywhere. You don't need a guy outside screaming for you to come to their restaurant to go find it. There's lots of great restaurants in Mexico City, and they're not out there screaming for you to come in. What happens when you go to these restaurants is they get you in, they tell you you're going to get drinks for a certain price, etc. When the bill comes, they try to slap you with a huge cover charge, like $100 or more. And if you don't pay it, they'll bring the police to come after you at the end, and it will not go well for you. Remember, this is Latin America. Do not think that the police behave like they do in the United States. That's not to say that all police are corrupt. They're not. I've had some good experiences with the police, but you have to respect where you are. This is a different place with a different culture and different norms. So just avoid the terraza restaurants in Zócalo altogether. There are many great restaurants you can go to without having to go to those. I've been doing restaurant reviews there in the Centro Histórico here on the channel. Check out some of my other videos to see some of those. And also, we're working on full videos just on the food. The third common scam here in Mexico City is the taxi scam or the ciclo-taxi scam. Admittedly, taxi scams are common all over the world, and Mexico City is no exception. I'm going to say there's no reason for you to take a taxi in Mexico City. With the existence of Uber, just take Uber. There is no reason to get in a taxi. I've used many taxis in the past just fine with no problems, but I have run into taxi scams myself more than once. If for some weird reason you decide to use a taxi in Mexico City, before you get in that taxi, you need to see if that meter is working. And once you start moving, you need to see that it is counting, that it actually is working. More than one time, the taxi driver did not want to turn on the meter for me. And when I asked him how much it would be for him to take me from point A to point B, he tried to quote me a price that was double or triple what it should have been. Now, this is unfortunate because probably most of the taxi drivers are honest men just trying to earn a living. But because of this type of scam and you being a tourist, being a target, I strongly encourage you to just avoid taxis and take an Uber. The ciclo taxi is a taxi bike, and they're very common to take you from Parque Alameda all the way over to Zócalo. This is walkable in about 20 minutes, but if it's really hot out, you probably don't want to walk it. So what's wrong with the ciclo taxis? Well, they try to pull a similar scam on you a lot of times. They'll tell you one price. They might say, oh, it's 200 pesos. And then you get in the ciclo taxi, and when you arrive and you get out of the ciclo taxi, they'll want to tell you, oh no, that's per person. That's not for everybody. So I don't encourage you to use these. You can get on the metro and go 2 stations on the blue line right into Zócalo. There is no reason to take the ciclo taxis, or you can just walk. You know you're not going to get ripped off with the metro. And if you have any questions about how to use the metro, check out my ultimate metro guide after you watch this video. Do you want to learn how to haggle those prices here in Mexico on your trip? You can sign up for Spanish classes with a native speaker at senorasarasclassroom.com. The 4th common scam here in Mexico City is anything at Santo Domingo. Santo Domingo is a popular site in Mexico City. It's actually pretty close to Zócalo, and it's actually a cool spot for you to go take pictures. There's this big, super old church. It's really neat looking. I like to go take pictures there, but that is all you should do at Santo Domingo. You see this? This is a map for free that you can pick up with lots of different tourist points at like an informational tourist kiosk near Alameda Park. And it's actually pretty cool. The reason I'm bringing this up is Santo Domingo is here. It's listed here. The problem with this map is that it does not tell you what places are safe or not for you to visit. It does not tell you the places where all the homeless people hang out, and it does not tell you where all the crooks and the con artists hang out. Santo Domingo is the place where the con artists hang out. This place is absolutely infamous for con artists and mob violence if you try to protest. So don't buy anything in Santo Domingo. Just go, take your pictures, and move on. And make sure you know where you're going, because Santo Domingo is just a few blocks away from Tepito, the market where you should absolutely never, ever, ever, ever go unless you are one foreigner with a Mexican who knows what they're doing. And I said Mexican who knows what they're doing. Not a Mexican from anywhere else in Mexico, but somebody from Mexico City that knows how to walk around Tepito. Are you enjoying these tips and you want to get more regular updates on Mexico City? Follow me on Instagram at senora.sarah. The 5th common scam in Mexico City is the car accident scam. Thankfully, this has never happened to me, but there are people in Mexico City whose sole purpose in life is to purposely cause a car accident and then aggressively try to blame you. And if you protest, once again, they get violent and even bring in their buddies to attack you. Be very careful when you're driving, and better yet, don't drive in Mexico City. Take the public transportation or an Uber. Who wants to drive in this traffic anyway? The 6th really common scam in Mexico City is the check your change scam or the you didn't pay scam. If you choose to buy things from street vendors, make sure you pay in small bills and or exact change. This isn't only because the street vendor may simply not have change or not want to give you change because he's too lazy to count, but they might also cheat you out of your change. Story time. I once had a lady operating a bathroom near the Aztec Templo Mayor try to double charge me for using the restroom. And whenever I tried to kindly explain to her that I had already paid, she got loud and aggressive with me. Now, because it was such a small amount of money, I simply went to another bathroom. I lost 5 pesos, no big deal. It made me mad and ruined my day and made me want to punch her in the face, but it was a small amount of money, no big deal. However, if you pay somebody with a large bill and they don't give you your change, it's going to be more of a problem for you. You also really shouldn't be pulling out large bills in the street in Mexico City anyway. You don't want people thinking that you have a lot of money. Do you have a question about Mexico City? Pop me a comment below. I try to respond to every single comment, and I would be happy to help you out. Regarding that guy that I talked about back at the beginning of the video, let's review what happened and how you can stay safe for this type of scam in Mexico City. It is true that one day a random, very burly, large American guy just showed up looking very distressed and panicky at my door in the middle of an area where no tourists ever should go. There's nothing to see there. There's no reason for tourists to go there. And so I knew immediately that something was very, very wrong. This guy had gone up to some public volunteers asking for anybody that spoke English in the area. And I was well known because I was the only English speaker in the area. And so they brought him to my door so I could help him. It turns out that he had tried to enter Mexico with a large amount of cash and like 2 computers and a lot of goods. And the police or some officials at the airport had tipped off crooks, and they attacked him, drove him around to this completely random area of Mexico City and just left him for dead. Were the guys that attacked him actually the police, or were they crooks just impersonating police? That's something that I don't know. I didn't actually see them. It could have been either or. The takeaway for you in this story is 2 things. Number 1, do not come into Mexico with large amounts of cash or expensive jewelry or goods. You can't trust everybody at the airport. You can't trust officials. You just don't want anybody to know that you have a lot of money or things to your name. And also, here's another thing that kind of goes along with that. Don't bring in a lot of money into Mexico to exchange at the airport. In addition to really poor exchange rates, that's another example of an opportunity for crooks to be tipped off later for them to attack you. I have heard of people exchanging a lot of money at the airport, and then as soon as they get outside, they're robbed. That's because the officials at the airport that saw them exchanging the money tipped off their friends outside. Now, this is not to say that every single official, every single policeman, every single employee is crooked in Mexico. It's not true. Most of them are fine. I've personally never experienced these problems, but I've heard it happening to friends. I've seen it happening on the news, and I don't want it to happen to you. So don't bring a lot of goods or money into Mexico. There's no reason for it. If you need money, you can take your debit card and go to an ATM and get a little out at a time. This is what I do, and there's no problem with it, and it's much more discreet. I hope this video was helpful for you in preparation for your trip to Mexico City. Make sure you binge watch the rest of my videos and content on Mexico City and subscribe. Nos vemos!